the priority list.
Donald Andromisa, just bear with us for a moment, because I want to bring in former Joint Operational Commander in the British Armed Forces, Ash Alexander Cooper. Good morning to you. How firm is the ceasefire, as far as you're aware, to allow this window to move people around, Ash?
Good morning. Well, it's only as firm as the people on the ground will allow it. I mean, the trouble is with all of these kinds of complex situations, it's all very well to make high-level ceasefire agreements with the generals at the very top of the forces that they command, but with communication being so poor in country at the moment, that there's a very real risk that that message doesn't always filter down to those who are fighting on the ground at a much lower level. So it's very welcome, clearly, that there is a ceasefire, and 72 hours is a decent window, but with the numbers that still need to be evacuated, it's still going to be extremely touch and go as to whether all or most of those people would even be able to be extracted in that time window. From
your experience then, what's the fastest and best way to get people moved?
Well, the fastest way is by air, but clearly helicopters and aeroplanes, the capacity is much lower. To get more people out, the best way would be by land, because you can obviously have convoys of vehicles, but they clearly are vulnerable to potentially attacks or hijackings or kidnappings. But the real issue here is distance. Even if they were able to get to Port Sudan, where Navy vessels are heading that way, and other nations have been extracting people from the port, it's 525 miles cross-country. So if you're a family with small children trying to get just across the country safely to then get to a Navy vessel or another airfield, that's a challenge in and of itself.
And in terms of the military that will presumably have to carry this out, what sort of complications are they facing?
Well, the main complication is that the situation on the ground is unclear and dynamic and constantly changing. But this is where the British and US and other militaries do very well, that when you make planning efforts, or you make plans for this kind of situation, most of the effort really is on contingency plans. So if the plan that you would like to work doesn't, then you have a whole load of backup plans and other options that you can then quickly pivot to.
And, well, the main plan is to try and get in there and to get people out. What happens if the ceasefire doesn't hold and you've already got people committed, flights already on their way?
Well, I mean, the flights they can land or turn back, but in terms of the troops that would be going forward to provide the security on the ground to try and help with the extraction, they are ready to do everything up to and including, fighting their way in and or fighting their way out if it came to it, to protect life. So that it doesn't really change anything for soldiers on the ground. They are trained in combat. Clearly, we would love it if everything happened smoothly and peacefully within the ceasefire window. And if the ceasefire window could be extended by negotiations diplomatically, then that's clearly the best option, that we have the longest time. But the government cannot rest on its laurels and be complacent. Time is not on our side, and we must act as if every hour is our last and do everything we can to front load more people earlier in the window.
Ash, thank you for your time this morning. I know you have other commitments, so I'll let you go just now. Ash Alexander Cooper there, former Joint Operational Commander in the British Armed Forces.